Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dyslexia Life Hacks Show. I'm your host, Matthew Head. On today's episode, we have Lauran Jeffrey. She's the area sales manager for OrCam. OrCam use artificial vision to make devices for the blind, the visually impaired, and people with reading difficulties. Their latest device, the OrCam Read, provides a portable solution that dyslexics can use to help decipher text. But I let Lauran explain more about that during the episode. She's kindly also sent us a link to a video that demonstrates this device, which you can find along with the show notes at dyslexialifehacks.com/podcast. Very warm welcome to the show, Lauran.
Hi, Matthew. Thank you for having me on. It's a pleasure.
It's great to have you here because it's an interesting device to talk about. But I thought where we would start would be your first experience with dyslexia and how you may have come across it before.
Yeah, absolutely. To be perfectly honest, it's while I've been with OrCam that I've come across dyslexia and started working a lot more in this field. And it's actually since the launch of our OrCam Read. So to give you a little bit of background on the OrCam Read in terms of when we launched it and what it's designed to do. We launched it in the height of lockdown, so at the very, very beginning of March 2020. People thought we were mad. Yes, it was a difficult decision to do. Obviously, the product was ready to go, and it was a case of, do we launch this? It's very difficult not being able to get out there in terms of shows and demonstrating face to face and letting people play with the device and have a go with the device and test it themselves. But it was fantastic. And what made that even better is because the OrCam Read is so intuitive and so simple to use, it was so easy to demonstrate online. And people straight away just understood how it worked, and they could see how accurate it was and how intuitive and how instant it was. So it was a fantastic product to demonstrate online. And that was my first involvement in dyslexia. So the first thing we did is we approached some dyslexia specialists in the market. When you first launch a product, especially in a new market for OrCam, it was a case of let's gather this market feedback. Let's speak to the experts. Let's understand what they think about the device. It's all well and good telling you how great the device is, but from our point of view, we need to hear it from those experts. So one of my first conversations was actually with a lady called Paloma Ford. And Paloma has recently launched a dyslexia company called Screening for Dyslexia. And I worked with Paloma to review the OrCam Read. And Paloma has, I believe one of her children is dyslexic, and she used to be a Senko teacher. So again, a really great person to speak to and gather their advice and their feedback on the device. And it was only when we showed it to Paloma that I really understood exactly how this is going to help people and how this is particularly going to help students with their studies. And the reason being is because the OrCam Read can capture an entire page of text at the click of a button, what that allows the student to do is process the information and understand the text that's being read to them. So it was a fantastic conversation. And from then, it has just absolutely grown in this market. And I've been lucky enough to demonstrate it to so many students with dyslexia and seeing how much this is helping them. For those who struggle with, words getting mixed up or letters in the words getting mixed up, just having the OrCam read it to them and being able to kind of navigate through the text. And I'll come on to this a little bit later. But being able to rewind it a little bit and re-listen to it, that's really helped people in terms of their reading and obviously enhancing their studies. So that was my kind of first, experience with students with dyslexia. And it's been fantastic. For me, that's one of the absolute job satisfaction with OrCam is seeing these devices and how much they genuinely change people's lives. And it's fantastic to see. And I've absolutely loved working in this sector.
Oh, nice. So, because you're not dyslexic or neurodiverse yourself, are you?
I'm not, no.
No. So you don't have any experience of dyslexic people or neurodiverse people going off at school or any awareness of there are people different here?
Absolutely. It was always something that, I think more prominent over the past couple of years, especially. But as I was sort of growing up, there wasn't really much around dyslexia, and I don't remember it being talked about as much. And I think once you start talking to people in that field, we've also done a lot of work with Darren Clark, who's been absolutely fantastic. And it's only then you really you really understand how dyslexia affects people. And it's not just students, it's right the way through adulthood as well. And anything that, we can do or companies can do or assistive tech can do to kind of help people, whether it's in the classroom, whether it's out and about shopping, whether it's when they're traveling, then for me, that is absolutely fantastic to watch.
Yeah, cool. So what brought you to OrCam? Because I sort of had a quick skim through your sort of CV on LinkedIn before we started recording, and your kind of previous experience isn't necessarily in the assistive technology field. So how did you end up at OrCam itself?
Yeah, absolutely. So my previous role, would you believe, I was a business development manager for a large lighting company in the UK, and we used to decorate for Christmas. I mean, people will say it was a lovely job. We used to decorate for Christmas sort of large department stores and large shopping malls and outlet villages. So we used to go and design and put up all the lights and obviously help clients through that process. So for me, it's always been a client-facing role that I absolutely love. I love being in front of the customer. I love showing them something new and something that perhaps they haven't thought of themselves, or something that's going to help them or help their business or whatever it might be. So absolutely. And I saw an opportunity at OrCam. Obviously, you always do a lot of research into companies, into technology. And again, it all comes back to that, having that ability to go out there and do a demonstration for somebody who perhaps has been blind since birth, or working with people who are partially sighted, visually impaired, or registered completely blind, and showing them a product that can actually assist them with their lives is just, who wouldn't want to go for a job at that kind of company?
It sounds really fulfilling. And I imagine like the Christmas lights, which Christmas all year round, must be quite good fun for a couple of years. And then you're like, it's Christmas again.
Yeah. It was in sort of January when you're talking to people about the following Christmas, and it's it's like, hold off a minute, let's just have a little bit of breathing space before we think about next year. But it was an opportunity that came up a couple of years ago now, and I obviously jumped at the opportunity, and thankfully I got the role.
Yes, yeah. So you've been selling, I guess, mainly to the blind and the visually impaired until OrCam Read got launched. How are you finding the shift? Because it's quite interesting. I don't actually know a blind person, but how you'd have to sell it to a blind person, and then you suddenly got all this influx of new neurodiverse people that have come into your world. And we are quite famous for finding alternative ways of doing things, hence having a website called Life Hacks. How are you finding the shift between the kind of two? I know there's obvious physical ones, but the general kind of how they interact with the device, sort of comparing visually impaired and blind to neurodiverse.
Of course, yeah, you're absolutely right. So OrCam launched back in 2010. So we've been in the market now for 11 years, and predominantly a low vision specialist. That's what our devices are designed for. So the MyEye, the OrCam MyEye, which people may be familiar with. So we've gone from a version 1, which we first launched in the UK about 7 years ago, right up to what we have now, which is the MyEye Pro, which is specifically designed for people who are blind, visually impaired, and or have reading challenges. It's interesting because in one day, as you mentioned, you can have a demonstration in the morning with somebody who's registered completely blind on the MyEye Pro, and then you can be heading to a school in the afternoon and doing a demonstration for a class full of 16-year-olds who have dyslexia. So it's fantastic to have a device that actually does both. And it's something that you said, it's new to us. The education, the dyslexia market is new to OrCam, and it's something that we've really we've grabbed hold of because it's based on the conversations that we've had in this market. the conversations that we've had with experts in this market to say, this is a device which, I mean, one of the quotes that we have is that this is a device that needs to be in every single school. I mean, what a statement, and that's not us saying this. It'd be great for us to say this. Of course we would say that, but it's not coming from us. It's coming from these professionals. And the conversations that we're having. So it was a real shift. There was an awful lot of research to do in this market through ourselves here in the UK, our head office over in Israel. There was an awful lot of market research we had to do. We had to really understand, what criteria does this product need to have in order to meet what's important in the dyslexia market as well. Because initially it was launched as our other products straight into our low vision market. It fit perfectly into the low vision market. And then, like you say, all of a sudden we're in this whirlwind and education is another main focus.
So did OrCam Read get designed with education and dyslexia in mind, or was it a portable device for the low vision market that you suddenly realised there's this other market it works perfectly for?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was, as I say, when we launched it, it fit straight into the low vision market because OrCam are very well established in the low vision market in the UK. We have some top distributors, top resellers that we work with in the UK. However, there was an element when it was in the R&D. So the way that it works with OrCam is when a product is through the R&D process, then there are times when we are able to sort of trial those devices and we can get them sent over, and they are obviously beta versions, so they're not full versions yet. They are not absolutely 100%, but we get to test them. And it was at that stage that we realized, hang on, we talk about reading challenges in the low vision market. That's always been in our mission has been reading challenges, but we've never kind of honed in on those reading challenges and what the device needs to do in order to help people with dyslexia, dyspraxia, ADHD. So it's only then that we think, right, and we are constantly developing our products. That's one thing with OrCam. You can go 6 months and a lot can change in OrCam, because the R&D are just continually looking to enhance the technology. So it was a bit of both, just to come back to your question. So originally, obviously, the low vision sector, of course, it slots straight in there. Because effectively it's a text-to-speech device. You take a picture of the page in front of you and it reads it back to you. So for somebody who's blind, visually impaired, it's a fantastic handheld device. It can assist them not just at home, but also around and about. However, for the education market, there is also criteria that it absolutely hits in order to be in that market. There is still work we need to do on the device, absolutely. And that's just like there is always with technology. Unfortunately, you need to keep one step ahead of the game. And that's what OrCam are great at doing.
Yes. Yeah, I could see that. It's funny how you suddenly sort of tap into another market and like, wow, all these extra users. And they use it like this. So walk me through the device. How it's kind of, you said it's like a biro size. How do you interact with it? How's it used? And what's the kind of typical usage case? We're sort of focused on the dyslexia use because that's largely the audience, but we'll go from there first of all.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so and I'll describe the product as best as I possibly can. So hopefully this gives you an image in your head of exactly what it looks like and what it does.
You're talking to a visual thinker, so you should be good on that.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, something we're used to doing. So I'm going to do this without even having one in my hand, because sometimes when I have it in my hand, I start to just pretend that everybody else can see it as well. So we'll talk through this. So the best way to describe it is it's about the length of a pen. So if you imagine the length of a pen and about the thickness of a highlighter. Okay. Right. It's got a flat end on one side and a curved end on the other. Okay, so that's what the device looks like. It's got like a plastic outer coating, and it's a black colour. On each side, in silver writing, you've got OrCam Read, which is sort of engraved on the side of the device. Mm-hmm. On the flat side at the front of the device, there's a smart camera. It's only tiny. I'd say it's about 2 centimetres high in terms of the height of the device. And you've got a smart camera, and underneath that, you've got 2 targeting lasers. Now, when the device is just switched off or it's not reading, you can't see those lasers. Okay, so they only activate when you point it towards a piece of text. All the buttons are then located along the top of the device. And there's only 4 buttons on the device. So everything is done via these 4 buttons. The first one, which is at the front of the device, closest to the camera, is a large round button. So when you hold the device like a pen, if you can imagine that your sort of main index finger sort of rests on that trigger button. That's the one that we use to take the picture of the text in front of us. Okay, so we class that as a trigger button, and that's the one that we use, as I say, to take the picture. Next to that, you've got a plus and a minus button, and they are shaped like a plus and a minus. So another thing that OrCam are quite good at, and it obviously comes down to the R&D, it's quite clever, that every button is a different shape, a different size.
Yes.
So as you work along the device, you can quickly identify between the different buttons. So you can use the device without really looking at it. So the plus and minus button are predominantly to control the volume of the device. So when the OrCam Read isn't speaking to you, so when it's not reading the text, if you were to press those, it would say volume up until it got to the maximum, okay, and then it would say volume down if you were to press the minus button. Now, there is another function for those 2 buttons, and that is to navigate through the text when it's reading. When the device is reading to you, so you've captured a page of text and it's reading the whole page to you instantly.
And you've captured that via aiming the lasers and pushing the round button?
Absolutely. Yep. So I'll talk about the 2 different lasers and how they work on the page. But once you've captured the page using the trigger button, if at that point, when he or she, depending which voice you choose, is talking to you and reading the text to you, if you were to press the plus button at that point, they navigate through the text. So what I mean by that is when it's talking and it's reading to you, pressing the plus button, what you'll notice is if you're following that text on the page in front of you, every time you press the plus button, she jumps ahead a sentence. Okay? And likewise, if you were then to press the minus button, she jumps back a couple of sentences. So you can quickly navigate through the text to get to the part of the page that you want to get to. So rather than having, we might skim through the page to get to a specific bit, or we might think, I've already read that bit, so just want to quickly get through that. You can keep pressing the plus button, and each time she skips ahead a line. So you can quickly get to the bit that you want to. Because you might have captured 2 pages of a book here. You might have captured 2 pages of an A4. So if you imagine, there's a lot of text that it's captured. So to get right to the bottom of that text, it might just be 1 line that you want to read. You can keep pressing the plus button and it'll quickly get to the point that you want to. And next to the plus and minus button, you've got 4 LEDs, and these are just battery indicators on the device. So they just tell you when the battery's running out and when it's time to charge. And then next to that, you've got an on-off button, which is just a long, thin button. So press and hold to turn it on, press and hold to turn it off. It has a USB charging point, so very, very straightforward. Pop it straight into the laptop, pop it into the socket. And it's got a fast charging battery, so it charges in full in under an hour. So one of the biggest things is obviously battery, because using this, you can imagine, day to day.
Yeah.
It's important for a lot of people that the battery lasts. And it does. We've used these at events, so some of the recent events that we've been to. You can pop it into standby mode as well, which obviously helps preserve the battery. And we've done it whereby we've gone through a whole day at an event, demonstrating, popping it into standby, demonstration after demonstration, turning it on, turning it off, and we've lasted a full day and still have battery left at the end. So it's fantastic for anybody using it in a workplace or in education. Also on the device, the final thing is the headphone jack. So for complete privacy, using it out and about, for example, it has got a headphone jack, so you can pop wired headphones into it. So you can either have it reading aloud, in which case if you're just at home, one evening you're reading the book in front of you or the newspaper, by all means having it reading aloud. You can pop wired headphones in. It does also have the ability to connect to Bluetooth.
Yes, I was going to ask that because it doesn't connect to AirPods, as every 16-year-old seems to have a set in their ears, but as standard now.
Absolutely, yeah. So that again, it's as technology changes,
yes,
right?
Yeah.
A couple of years ago, we wouldn't have been bothered about connecting it to Apple AirPods, but now it's top of the list. You talk about the sort of education dyslexia market. Well, that was important.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah, knowing a few 16-year-olds, they all have AirPods.
Exactly. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they connect to AirPods as well, and Bluetooth speakers. People have things like Alexas and Google Homes. So if you're doing story time, it's fantastic. Have it reading through the speaker.
And it will speak in Alexa's voice to the speaker?
Good question. I believe so. Yes. Yeah. Everything that will come out of. Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Or if you've just got a normal Bluetooth speaker, by all means, you can connect it to a Bluetooth speaker and pop it in the living room, for example. And if you wanted to read something important, let the whole house hear.
No, I quite like that idea. You're sat in a bedroom and want to read something, and you just get the smart speaker to the OrCam points at the page, and the smart speaker speaks it back out to you. I've realised saying the smart speaker's name has probably triggered a load of people's houses at this point in the podcast.
Yes. Apologies for that. Everyone's going.
Damn it! Don't say his name.
Fantastic. So that is effectively what's on the device. Hopefully that gives you a sort of a mental image of what it looks like. In terms of what it does, it's the most advanced digital handheld reader on the market. It's a text-to-speech reader. We mentioned before about the two targeting lasers. So just to quickly talk you through what these mean. You say lasers, everybody gets very excited.
Oh, yes.
They automatically think James Bond.
Yeah.
What does that mean? But effectively, if you were to point the device towards a piece of text, you were to press and hold the trigger button, the first thing that you see on the page is 4 corners of a laser frame. Okay. These 4 corners, you see 4 corners of a laser frame and a little LED dot in the middle of the page. Now, the device is designed to pick up anything inside those 4 corners. So by moving the device closer to the page, further away from the page, to the right, to the left, you change the position of that frame on the page.
Yes. Okay.
So if, for example, you wanted to capture an entire A4, just move the device far enough away so that the 4 corners eventually cover the whole page. And it's usually, I'd say, about 30 centimetres away from the text in front of you. You very quickly get used to how far you need to be in order to capture different size text, you can imagine. It's like any technology, the more you use it, the more you just get used to it.
So how does a partially sighted or visually impaired person use the lasers?
Yeah, good question. And that's probably one of the biggest questions we get, particularly in the low vision market. And it was the first question that we asked. Well, if you've got a laser frame on the page and you're working with somebody who's visually impaired, or like you said, registered blind, how did they see it? It doesn't matter. You can also turn the laser off.
Right.
And the reason being is one of the first things we did is we work with an awful lot of low vision charities across the UK. And again, it's market research. When we bring out a product, we send it to our all-seeing, all-knowing people in the market. And one particular gentleman that I worked with who has been blind since birth, I sent the device, I did a training with him, and I asked him that question. I said, how does that work? And he said to me, I know within the first time he did it, he didn't capture the page. Okay. And I said to him, that's fine. I said, let's try it again. And he held up a piece of A4 page, which was full of text. And he moved the device just slightly further back, holding it like a pen. He moved it slightly further back. And I could see something. I could see him working something out in his head. And I just left him to it for a second. And all of a sudden, he took this picture of the page and it read the whole page. And I don't know how he did it, but he positioned the frame perfectly around the page. And he said to me, that's all I needed. Once I did it once, that was it. I knew for an A4 piece of paper, I know it needs to be 30 centimetres from the device. So I hold the piece of paper up, I move the device, I put the device on the page, so he points to the page, he moves it 30 centimetres back, and he takes that picture, and it captures it.
Goes through a calibration sequence, basically.
Absolutely.
Of course, yes. So actually, yeah, I can see that, because you'd eventually, if you use it even with the lasers, maybe not quite, but you get to a point where you're roughly in the right place before you start anyway.
You do, yeah. And the other thing, I mentioned it before, but we turn the lasers off. With all of OrCam products, the camera angle is very, very wide. So you'll be very surprised what it captures. You can be doing a demonstration sometimes and you're sat in front of the person and you're expecting it to pick up the page in front of you. And it starts reading the poster on the wall at the back.
Well, that makes no sense. This is not prime footage. Just,
It happened this morning. I did a demonstration this morning in Birmingham. And we took a picture of this book. We were reading Charlotte's Web. We had the book in front of us and we took a picture. And all of a sudden it started talking about Wi-Fi. And I suddenly thought, where has it got that from? And I'm racking my brain thinking, looking for anything on the desk that's got any relation to Wi-Fi. And on the wall behind sort of, I'd say about 2 meters away at least, it had the Wi-Fi details. And that's what it read. And we, for ages, we couldn't figure out where it was reading these credentials from.
The Wi-Fi passcode is ZX.
So what you'll also understand is that because of the camera angle as well, you providing there's no other text around it. So that's just something else just to bear in mind, that if you've got a piece of A4 and there's nothing else around you, and you're 30 centimeters away, it's going to cover that A4. So whether you can see the lasers or not, it's irrelevant.
No, it's just, I get it. It was an interesting point. I was like, hang on, how does that work with the lasers? But for your education dyslexia market, the lasers are ideal because you can sort of hone in on, how are you finding dyslexics are using it? Are they basically reading the page or are they doing sentence? Or I sometimes, my phone will get to a point and I can't read a certain word and I'll just highlight it and get the phone to read it out loud, just the one word. Do you find people do that as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So with that frame though, that's what's really good about it. So yes, you can capture entire pages. You can capture one A4, you can put two A4s next to each other, you can go for three A4s, you can go for an A3 poster and you can capture the entire page. But what you can also do is if you were to move closer to the page, what you find is that the frame gets smaller. So as you say, you can home in on a specific part. So perfect for text boxes. If you've got a work booklet and they're all in different text boxes, just home in on the text box that you want it to read. And likewise, if you could home it in that far, you can also sort of read individual words. Now, the other reading mode, again, it's a laser, very James Bond, but this time it's a laser cursor. So similar to what we have on our laptop or computer, the little arrow that runs around, that you're constantly trying to find. You can change it. You can swap the two reading modes. So now when you point at a piece of text, you have a single laser. And the minute you move the device around, that's where the laser moves.
Right.
So for this reading mode, you simply position that laser anywhere on the page that you want the device to start reading from.
Okay, I see.
So this is great if you are revisiting a piece of text. So you can easily flip between the two modes just by a simple double press of the plus and minus button. You just press it once together and it literally swaps between the two modes. But this is fantastic because you position it anywhere on the page and that's where the device will start reading from.
Okay, that does sound kind of cool. I like the way it's a cursor, so it's exactly the same as using Word where you highlight the thing. How did OrCam get to the read? Because obviously you were saying about the My Eye Pro, which is a kind of hangs on the side of a laptop kind of thing, and there's another device underneath that. What's the sort of OrCam journey? How did they start thinking about, let's make a portable device, and then sort of stumbled into the education market as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you're absolutely right. So we launched, the My Eye has gone through so many versions since we first launched it because, as everyone knows, technology enhances so quickly. So we launched the version 1 to start with. And if you saw the version 1 now, unfortunately, it is slightly outdated. But at the time, that was the latest technology. It had a wire coming out of the back of the OrCam My Eye, and it actually attached onto like a battery pack, which you would attach onto a belt, and you'd carry it around with you. And now obviously it's such a small portable device that literally just clips onto the side of a pair of glasses. But great question about the My Eye. So we always talk about wearable devices with OrCam. And that is fantastic because it means it's hands-free. So for anybody that, perhaps needs to use their hands for other things, or maybe even struggles to use their hands, it's the dexterity of people is very important when it comes to OrCam products. We need to make sure that they are able to tap the device, to swipe the device, and have the ability to do so, because that's how the product, the MyEye particularly, is operated. However, for people that would struggle with that, because on the MyEye you've got one touch bar, which is a really thin line, okay, which is just raised on the side of the MyEye. So, and the way that you operate the MyEye is either by a simple tap or a swipe. And some people get it straight away, and absolutely it's, fantastic in terms of all the features that it does. But for people that would struggle with that, okay, either they struggle with the simple tap, and perhaps they might shake slightly, in which case, they might double tap instead, or they would struggle with the swipe. The next kind of, development with that was to bring out a handheld device. Something that's not wearable, something that you can actually carry around, something that you can use for, again, education. So the handheld element of it has always been something that's always been spoke about in OrCam ever since I started. Always been with R&D, and they were sort of, tying with the idea of how do we put all that into a text-to-speech reading device. And because everything has been wearable, this was a chance to now incorporate handheld vision into this as well. So to give you an idea, it was launched obviously March last year, and it's absolutely taken the market by a bit of a storm, if I'm honest.
Well, that sounds great, and I've seen it pop up a lot on various things, OrCam, and there's another one, Scan Pens, I think is the other one I've seen, which seems like a slightly different device to what you're got. I think that's one that highlights text as you run across it, a bit like a Tipex pen or something.
Yes. So slightly different. So the main difference being really is that the OrCam Read will capture entire pages. So rather than having to sort of scan each line, you would essentially just take a picture of a whole A4 page, or as I say, A3, two A4s, whatever it might be, a double page spread in a book. And at the click of a button, it reads it to you. Now, there's a lot of advantages with that kind of technology. Because it takes a picture of the entire page, you can effectively shut the book. You can turn the page.
Yes.
So again, the biggest difference is you don't need to sit there and sort of scan each line. You just take a picture of it and it reads it straight back to you. So it's, for students, what we found is it allows them to interpret the information much quicker, particularly people who consume large amounts of text. If you think college, university, where assignments require you to read 20-page journals, endless articles that you can do printed text and online. Obviously, the OrCam Read allows you to do that much quicker, and it allows you to read it digitally as well. So the OrCam Read will capture computer screens, lecture theatre screens, so you can use it out and about.
Does it capture your handwriting?
So it doesn't, no. It's not designed to read handwriting.
Right.
I do always say this, it does depend how neat your handwriting is.
Yeah.
I have to say that, but I can't comment on that because my handwriting is awful. So I've got no chance. It's never going to recognise mine.
So when you go to the doctors, what does that say? And the Scan Pen's like, no. Send them on a calligraphy course. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's not designed to read handwriting, unfortunately. But as I say, it will be printed and digital. So anything on a computer screen, it will read on a smartphone as well. One of the other sort of slight differences as well is being out and about. So one thing that we've found is for students in the classroom and in an exam situation, because it's an offline device, it meets the criteria for the JCQ. It is fantastic. However, it's not just restricted to being used inside, at home, or in a classroom. We have so many people that are using this to do their weekly shop.
Yeah.
You go down to the supermarket. We've had it before, and this is from case studies that we've done with people, students that have just moved to university. They might have intolerances, they might have dietary requirements. But that laser cursor mode is fantastic to take around a supermarket. So you pick up a product, you take a picture of it, and it tells you exactly what the product is.
Oh, okay. And you could read the ingredients list and go, oh, that's how all the things are pronounced in that particularly sugary, really, really lovely treat.
Yeah.
What does that say? Right.
Yeah. And I didn't say this, but you can read all the alcohol ingredients and how to make the best cocktails.
Oh, okay, yeah. Just to make sure. Yeah, no excuses now when you poured twice as much vodka in as you first thought of, right?
Yeah. I'm sure that cocktail was only supposed to have one spirit in.
So that does make me think, actually, outside of demonstrating the device, do you find yourself using it?
All the time.
Yeah?
All the time. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, I do. I use it more because I always want to put products to the test, because I feel like if I don't know everything about this product, then that's not good enough. So no. I use it in everything. I know, it goes down to a size 4 font, which, to give you an idea, is sort of the back of medicine packets, back of ingredients. So we spoke about. Yeah. I could tell you that the distance that I've got for that is about 30 centimetres. So in terms of that, I mean, I use it all day, every day on demonstrations. I've done it. I've tried it with handwriting. I've tried my neatest handwriting. Unfortunately, I'm still not getting anywhere with that one. The other thing that I like to try it on is fonts, colour backgrounds, fonts. For dyslexia, a lot of people like to use different backgrounds. So orange is quite a popular background as well that people use, red backgrounds. So in terms of different font colours on different backgrounds, the OrCam Read will read any of them. That does not make an issue whatsoever. That does not make a difference. But fonts is an interesting one. So the Chinese menu is a good one to try.
Really?
Yeah, because Chinese menu tends to find that the fonts are a little bit harder to read. So I always put it to the test in terms of what it can and what it can't do. And certain things it will and certain things it won't. So food packets. So I tried it on the front of Kellogg's boxes, Heinz, seeing what it will pick up, because it's always, you never know when you go, now we're able to go to these events. Some of the questions that we get are fantastic. And the more I guess we try it, the more we know what it does and doesn't do.
How many languages can it read?
So we have different versions of the OrCam Read. So the English version is a Western Europe version. So there are 6 available languages on the device. So that's English, Spanish, Portuguese, Italian, French, and German. And you can pick 3 languages to be on the device. So typically it comes with English as the default. And then it comes with French and German are the 2 additional languages. Now, it doesn't translate.
No, that's going to be my next question.
It would be fantastic if it did.
Yes, yeah.
But we also get a lot of foreign language teachers that go, no.
Can I take some exam with me? Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely not. It can't, we don't want it to do that. So it doesn't translate.
Yeah.
But if it does see a piece of French text or a piece of German text, it will read it in that native language. So great for students who are perhaps bilingual, who are, learning new languages. It's fantastic. But
so that's a software-driven thing rather than a hardware-driven thing. So if somebody's got the Western version and defaulted to English, French, and German, but they've decided to learn Mandarin, can you just download Mandarin to it?
Okay, so this is where it gets obviously slightly difficult, because we have all these different versions. So we have a US version, which has a set different languages on. Then we have a Far East version. Right. And then we have an Eastern European version as well, which again all have different languages on. Now, based on the technology that we have, okay, we will always find ways of getting the language that you want. The best thing about it is English tends to be on all of those different versions, because it's obviously spoken everywhere. So
yes, yeah.
So that is absolutely. So Mandarin is an option. It definitely. Okay. So it would be an option to get it with English and Mandarin. Anything like that just requires a little bit of research into head office, a chat with the R&D team, just to find out, the best way to do this. But yeah, different versions are.
It is a software-driven thing rather than a hardware-driven thing to read Chinese characters and different alphabets. No, that's cool. That'd be interesting. You're learning a language, you get it to highlight it and say it back to you in the right pronunciation. If you're struggling.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic for if you're learning your speaking exam, for example. You can write the content and you can have it read it to you, and then you can obviously learn how those words are pronounced. So, yeah.
So one thing I wanted to kind of address, it was something that piqued my interest as my phone's been updated recently, and I've noticed now, like an Apple iPhone, and I assume Android will do the same thing, that I can actually take photos of pages of text, and it will give me an option to highlight it all. And then using some of the hacks, can copy and paste it and use accessibility on the phone to read it. I mean, okay, slightly more clunky. How do you feel that is going to affect the market going forward as smartphones get more and more of this assistive tech as part of their native operating system?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, apps have always, they've always been around, but just like they are constantly advancing their technology. One thing I touched on it before, but one thing that is across all of OrCam products is our products are all standalone offline devices. So what I mean by that is they do not require any internet connection in order for them to work. So the OrCam Read, you can pull out the OrCam Read, you can be in the middle of nowhere. So I always use the example, you are alone one evening, you're trying to either read the bus timetable, or you're trying to read taxi numbers or whatever it might be. Your phone's died, you've got no signal whatsoever. You can still rely on the OrCam Read to work. It doesn't require anything. So you can be on a flight, you can be on a long haul flight in the middle of the night, and you're wanting to read the book in front of you. You don't need to worry about connecting it to the internet, connecting it to any kind of Wi-Fi. It's completely standalone offline. So that's the first thing that differentiates us between apps on phones, because everything is obviously connected to the web. The reason why OrCam have chosen to go down that path and stick with that path as being offline is because, we work with a lot of companies in the UK that use OrCam for their employees.
Okay.
So you can imagine from a data privacy point of view, if those pictures that we are taking, and effectively the algorithms that we use to take we're not necessarily taking pictures of things, we're taking measurements of everything when we use the device. But effectively, we cannot have it whereby you can take a picture of something and then you can store it somewhere else and take it home that evening and take that information with you.
Right, yes.
And that's really, really important. And that is something that A, is in the workplace, but B, when it comes to education and students, that's what allows us to meet the JCQ criteria, the fact that it is able to be used in exams. So you can't put anything onto the device. You can't take anything off the device. So once you read a page of text and it gets to the end of the page and it stops reading, okay, and it's perhaps waiting for you to turn the page and capture the next pages, it's gone. There is no way to get that page back apart from to recapture it.
Oh, okay. So you can't read it again. You just have to go and recapture.
Absolutely. You can use the navigating features that we spoke about, the plus and minus, but you've got to do that before it stops, because the minute it stops, you're not going to be able to go back. So, and that's the reason. And it's always a question that we get: do you think OrCam will go online in the future? But we have to bear in mind who our audience are and actually who is it helping. And we have a lot at the minute with regards to privacy concerns and data concerns. And for us, with it being a standalone offline device, it can be used everywhere and anywhere. So we talk about it not just being used at home, not just being used in the workplace or in the classroom. Take it out, take it on holiday with you, read that book on the beach, put your phone down, enjoy that time. We see reading it as special, hence why we really promote these products in terms of independence and having that luxury of being able to read the letters that come through the door, the private letters, the bank statements, but have that time to enjoy the reading side of it. Because the minute you go on a smartphone, you're then on everything, aren't you? You click onto every single app.
Yeah. You checked Facebook, you've updated Instagram.
Yeah.
You are right. That is a good point, the offline stuff. And you're right about the workplace thing. I initially thought of exams, but I work in a design and R&D environment, so photos are not allowed outside of it. So particularly your previous job, and had its own camera that you had to use to take photos with. You couldn't just use your smartphone for that very reason. So, yeah, having a limited memory on a device that forgets things is important in the work environment, as well as you mentioned with the school. Is it something that's available on DSA funding?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. So we talk about workplace, we talk about students. So the OrCam Read is an improved product on the DSA, and we are seeing more and more students getting it through the DSA, which is fantastic to see.
Yes.
We work with a lot of students, and even just the past couple of events that we've been at. So we recently attended the TES show in London, which was our first TES show, and it was fantastic.
Sorry, what's the acronym mean, TES?
So it's the TES SEN show. I believe it's the Technology Education show.
Right.
In London. Apologies. It's the first time. I've just always called it the TES show, to be honest. I have to think about that then. But it's the TES SEN show, and it was at the Design Business Centre a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
And it was fantastic. And the amount of students that I spoke to that knew about the DSA and had, spoken about the DSA and even, contemplated going through the application, but didn't know that OrCam was available as a product on there. So that is something that we are really keen to get across to people, that it is available. We talk about workplace as well. ATW is Access to Work, which is another great funding channel. Again, all OrCam products are available through Access to Works, and that's another reason why we come back to it being an offline, because it meets the criteria for a lot of workplaces.
Mm. If I wanted to buy it as a private consumer, is there a market stream for that?
There is, absolutely. So we work through a distribution channel here in the UK. So we have a number of distributors, resellers across the UK. All can offer things like demonstrations as well, training that comes with the devices. But if absolutely, you can purchase it through one of our distributors. So the typical retail price of the OrCam Read, if you were just to go and purchase it, is £2,000 plus VAT. However, we do have promotions on. We have quite a few promotions on as well, just to because it is still classed as, well, I still class it as a new product. Getting it out there. But we work a lot with these funding channels, and these funding channels are obviously fantastic to give people the opportunity to get these kind of devices and to help them.
Yeah, if you're listening in the future, these prices are October 2021.
Yeah.
So, that's quite a lot. So I understand the funding streams are, I imagine, the dominant side of your market. It's not something somebody's got at home. Is it quite a robust device? I can imagine it getting rattled around in drawers. It kind of feels like something that should just bounce off desks.
It is. It's robust. It's not. It's not indestructible, shall we say? No. So we are working with the MyEye. We have a case, sort of like a hard case that comes with it, and we're working for the same with the OrCam Read. Both come with lanyards, so we always recommend, particularly with the OrCam Read, pop the lanyard on. There's a little sort of lapel at the back of the OrCam Read. So pop the lanyard on, and when you're not using it, just pop it around your neck. And then if it was to fall, by all means, it's not going to fall it's not going to fall on the floor. What we do say with any kind of any product, the minute you receive one of these, pop it on your contents insurance, just add it on. You don't need to worry about it. We've had the odd one go through the washing machine, unfortunately, which is always so hard to hear.
The washing machine, blimey.
Yeah, because they're so small.
Yeah. Yeah, you have them chuck it in your shirt pocket like a pen and leave it clipped on your shirt pocket. Because that got me thinking, actually, is it IP rated or anything? I'm thinking of people who work in building or technical environments where they're in workshops, where they want to read set instructions with it, but it's a dusty, damp environment. It's more of an outdoorsy environment rather than an office. We've talked a lot about offices. How does it stand up to things like that?
That's a great question. I'll be honest, that's another one. I've never had that one before, but I do know quite a lot about IP rating from my previous role with the lights. As you can imagine. So as far as I know, it's not IP rated. It's not, I believe it's IP67 is the highest rating you can get. It's not IP rated. However, we do have people using it outside, inside. It's, in terms of the dust isn't going to affect it. It's got a little glass coating on the front of the camera as well. So that can easily just be sort of wiped. But we always say to people, use it outside. We encourage people to use it anywhere and everywhere. And that's, one of the things that we talk about. So I'd like to think that it would withstand the English, British weather, shall we say?
Yeah. I was just thinking, you've got a build instruction and you've put your sockets and your hammer down, you use that scan and put that down on the bench. And you can imagine how dirty you get after a day of building something like a car workshop or a fabrication centre. That was kind of the environment I was thinking, particularly where you've got to read technical manuals to make sure you're building something correctly. Seems like a really good place for it. One thing, seeing as you work in marketing, I was kind of interested, how do you market things to dyslexic people?
Good question. So a lot... The marketing department in OrCam, so just to go back slightly, so OrCam is an Israeli company. So our head office is over in Jerusalem, in Israel. We're a global company. But most of our departments are over there at the headquarters. So our R&D sits in the headquarters, and 80%, I believe, if not a little bit more, of OrCam employees are based in the R&D. So that gives you an idea on how much goes into that. But the management, the marketing are all over in Israel, and they are the ones that manage. There has been, and I'm sure, and the conversations that we're having, we are seeing that more and more people are becoming aware of OrCam, particularly in the dyslexic market. So in terms of marketing, it's always been a big thing for us. We are marketing in magazines. So, dyslexia-specific magazines, education-specific magazines. We do a lot with SEN, TES, we spoke about. We're doing a lot of events. We are attending BET Show in January, which is obviously a big education technology show, which we are very, very much looking forward to. I believe we need comfy shoes for that one. That's what I've heard. But in terms of the marketing, absolutely, I'll be lying if I told you exactly how we do it. We do have a fantastic PR team here in the UK as well. We recently did a fantastic marketing opportunity with Moonhall School, based in Reigate, which is a special dyslexia school. So this was something that I worked on last year. Again, very difficult during the lockdown. But we sent them some devices for them to trial. We wanted to gather their feedback, and their students were fantastic, absolutely fantastic. We did some interviews with the students, with the teachers, to find out how they've been using it, how it's been helping them. And it's really what we need to do as OrCam is we need to find out from these professionals and people in this sector that know this sector and know what's going to help people with dyslexia, and find out, what we need to do to enhance our products, and what we need to do to be the number one provider, the number one solution for people with dyslexia. So there's an awful lot of marketing going into dyslexia for OrCam. And whether that's, as I say, through advertising, we've got a TV campaign running at the moment, which people we have, which has been really exciting.
Cool.
Never done TV before, so that is fantastic, and a massive presence as well in print. So we've been in a lot of the national newspapers. We do a lot of our PR team work on a lot of press stories as well. So there's an awful. It's a very, very exciting time for OrCam, shall we say, in this market.
Oh, brilliant!
So yeah, watch this space, shall I say?
Yeah, I imagine it's quite nice to market something when you have a good product to start with.
Absolutely. And once we've got the feedback from everybody else around us, that also believe in this product and know that this product can really help and enhance students, particularly in their learning, then that makes our job a lot easier.
Most definitely, yeah. You end up with a tribe of fans that do quite a lot of the marketing for you. Yeah. The team is fantastic, and yeah, I'm excited to see where it goes. Excellent. So I'm going to sort of, as I round the podcast off, I've always got a couple of 3 rapid fire questions that I like to ask all guests. So they don't need short answers from yourself, so you can feel free to talk as long as you like. So the first one is, What prejudice do you have about dyslexia that's been proven wrong?
Great question. For me, I am always learning. That's a really good question. I guess I didn't understand dyslexia at before I sort of entered this market. I didn't understand how it affected people. I was under the impression that I knew it was perhaps difficulty reading, but I perhaps didn't understand that there are different elements to it as well in terms of, writing, spelling. So I think for me, it's just to be perfectly honest, coming in with a bit of a lack of understanding, and now working with the people that we are working with. I mean, it's been fantastic, but yeah, I don't know whether that really answers your question, I'm afraid.
Yeah, but no, every answer is a perfectly valid answer. It's why I asked the question to see what people come up with. Okay, question 2. If an alien landed, how would you describe dyslexia to them now?
Ooh. Yeah, I would say that dyslexia is a reading challenge that affects every age group, and it affects it's problem caused with writing, with reading, with spelling, and every single person could be affected by dyslexia. So it doesn't matter what country you're in, what language you speak. Dyslexia is a common reading difficulty.
Yes, cool. And of course, this being the Dyslexia Life Hacks show, do you have any dyslexia life hacks?
Ooh. I would say use the OrCam Read.
Yeah. All the assistive tech people say the same.
Get in touch and see how we can help. But I think if anything, it's for me, it's just having that, knowing that will never. That should never, ever stop anybody. And there is so many tools out there to help people with dyslexia, whether that's with the reading, with the writing. But there are things that, out there that will help. And whether it's a reading difficulty that's been diagnosed or whether it's one that hasn't been diagnosed, by all means, it's never too late to get help for your reading. It's never too late to read your favorite book, or never too late to read the post that comes through the door in the morning.
Yes, definitely. I think it's one of the things you find out as you start walking down the dyslexia journey and finding more about it, that you suddenly realise all this stuff's about that actually really helps. Will it get all the way through the Lord of the Rings trilogy before it goes flat?
Good question. It's been a long time since I've read the Lord of the Rings. If not, when it is charging, you can still use the device. So just make sure when you are reading, you are located near a plug socket and you can plug it in and continue reading with it. That would be my answer.
That's the longest book I could think of. The longest book series. Okay. Before we sign off, is there anything else you'd like to add, or anything you'd like to links or anything like that?
No, I think that's fantastic. No, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, and thank you for having me on. And obviously, if anybody has got any questions on anything we spoke about, or would like to see the OrCam Read as a demonstration, then by all means, just let me know, and I'd be more than happy to arrange that. Yes, I will post links to find where you can see the demonstration and get hold of OrCam in the show notes, which will be available at dyslexialifehacks.com/podcast. Well, thank you very much for taking the time and coming on today. It's been really interesting hearing about your OrCam and how it helps people out and how you've got it into different places. It's been a pleasure. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to everybody else for taking the time to listen. I will see you in the next episode. Goodbye.